going on, YouTube? It's your boy Charles Enoch, and we are back with another Invest in Myself episode. So I am super excited about today's episode. We will be going over part 2 on how to incorporate the BRRRR strategy with velocity banking. And yeah, I know part 1 was a little dry, a lot of repetitive, but hey, we had to learn the BRRRR strategy. But now since we got that down, we can incorporate some of that velocity banking into the BRRRR strategy. So part 2 will incorporate a lot of strategies that I've done in previous videos. And I'll have them all linked down below just in case you need to pause the video and then go to that link and get the better understanding on how we're using that particular strategy. So before we even get started, I do want to give a shout out to all my subscribers that faithfully watch my videos and take time to even smash that like button. I really do appreciate it. You guys help a brother out tremendously. As a small YouTube channel, every like really helps me reach a higher audience base. So I really do appreciate you guys for taking time out just to even do that. Also, if you are new to the channel, go ahead, take a little time, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. I always upload new videos weekly. Again, I do appreciate the love you guys are showing me. It helps me keep going, keep pushing to teach the financial literacy in velocity banking. All right, so without further ado, let's hit this whiteboard so I can show you how I incorporate the BRRRR strategy into velocity banking for my everyday finances. All right, before we get started with part 2, I do want to just give a brief review of part 1 in the BRRRR strategy. So let's go over it really quickly here. So remember, for my primary home, I got a HELOC of $65,000. And then I started investing my money into the Midwest in those type of properties, and they're very cheap. So I got a house that is distressed for $50,000. So I used $50,000 of the $65,000 of my HELOC. Took about $5,000 to rehab to repair the property. Once I did that, I rented it out $800. And this is net after the property management took their percentage out. After about 6 months, I went to the bank, refinanced the property. The property is now worth about $75,000. They are going to give me 75% of the $75,000, which would be about $55,000. So now I have another $55,000 into my account. What I'm going to do is just repeat the process. I'm going to buy another $50,000 house, rehab it for $5,000, and then rent it out for $800, and then get it appraised in about another 6 months. So it can be about $75,000. They're going to give me 75% of that. I have another $55,000. So that is the brief overview of the BRRRR strategy. Again, if you have not seen part 1, I suggest that you pause the video, at least go ahead, check it out, look at the link. I'll have it linked down below. And then once you get a thorough understanding, go ahead and come back to part 2. All right, so now that we did a brief review of the BRRRR strategy, we pretty much have the mechanics on what type of properties we're wanting to buy, to rehab, and how to refinance it so we can get the money back and just repeat the process. Now we're going to be learning the mechanics in regards to the finances. When you buy the property, how do you tie velocity banking into it? So we're going to get started. So what we're going to picture is, let's say that we bought a property in December, and it took us, a few weeks to fix it up and then to get a renter in there. So come January 1st, we have a renter in the property. So that's pretty much the back storyline of how we're going to get started. So we got our first property, and it's going to be month 1 through 6 here. So first we need to figure out what is the interest that we're paying when we use $55,000 to buy the house and to rehab it. So how to calculate the interest. And remember, I do have a video of how to calculate simple interest when using a line of credit. It can be a HELOC as well too. So if you need to review that, you can go ahead and click on the link, but we're going to run through it real quickly. Also, another thing with the HELOCs are a variable interest rate. And what a variable interest rate means is that it can fluctuate. So some of my HELOCs, I can get them as low as 3%, and sometimes they can get as high as about 6%. So I'm just going to use a ballpark figure of 5% for the HELOC for these examples. But remember, it does fluctuate because it's going to be a variable rate. So sometimes it can be as low as 3, sometimes maybe high as 6 or 7%. But we just want to know the calculation here. So when we have our $55,000 that we use from the HELOC, we're going to times that by 0.05, and that's a 5% interest rate. After we do that, we're going to divide it by 12, and 12 would be the months, M. And once we do all that, the interest is going to be $229 per month. So now that we know the interest that we pay on the HELOC per month, our rent, remember, is going to be $800. So the next step is we're going to take the $800 of rent, minus it by the interest that they're going to be charging us, which is $229. And that's going to leave us at a net of $571 of cash flow in regards to that $800 payment of rent. Now, the next step is we want to figure out how long will it take to pay off the property. So what we're going to do, we're going to take the $55,000 that we use on our HELOC. We're going to divide that by the 571 because that is our net payment, our cash flow. And when we do that, it's going to equal about 96 months. We divide that by 12, pretty much 8 years is going to take us to pay off the property. So on average, remember, when we're getting mortgages, what's that, 15 to 30 year mortgage? We're paying off the property in about 8 years. So that's pretty much half the time for a 15-year mortgage, and it is killing a 30-year mortgage. So one thing to note as well too, the interest goes down every time you put money into the HELOC. So for example, if we have the HELOC down to $40,000, we're going to do the same equation. We're going to times that by 0.05. That's a 5% interest divided by 12. It's only 166 of interest. So if we ideally look at this, every time that we put that $800 payment into the home equity line of credit, it's reducing the interest. So every time the interest gets reduced, it increases our cash flow every single month. So we're going to backtrack to remember the 8 years that we were saying it takes to pay off the house. This is assuming that the interest will stay at $229 per month, but it actually will not. Because if we did the math for $40,000, when it gets to that, it's only 166 of interest. So ideally, you can probably pay this off maybe about 6 years. And the reason why we're able to pay this off so quickly is because we bought the property with a home equity line of credit, and we're paying off the payment using simple interest. When we get a mortgage, they're using amortized interest. That's why it's taking 15 to 30 years. But when we buy it in full with the home equity line of credit and we're paying down simple interest, it makes it so we can pay off the properties very quickly. So just to recap, when we're stuffing that $800 into the home equity line of credit, it is reducing the interest, which is increasing our cash flow every single month. And you will not touch this money. You're literally just putting the $800 into the home equity line of credit every single month and just letting it sit there and just keep going every single month. You're just putting that income in and leaving it there. Now, if expenses arise, what you specifically do is the money that goes into the home equity line of credit, since it's revolving, you can just take it out at any point in time. So let's say in 2 months, I put in the $1,600 in the home equity line of credit, and something happens where I have to pay $200 for some type of repair. You pull it out of the home equity line of credit. So there is no need to be saving 6, 7, 8 months worth of emergency fund. Your emergency fund is your home equity line of credit. You're just stuffing all that money in there every single month if something arises, you can pull some money out of there to fix up the property or whatever you need to in regards to maintenance. So the next thing that we need to discuss when we're buying the properties in full with the home equity line of credit, it does not tie in an insurance. Like the mortgage makes you put the insurance on there, insurance will not be tied in. So we will have to purchase our own insurance. Now for properties in Kansas that are about that $50,000 mark, the insurance is about $750 for the year. And guess what? I don't use any money out of the home equity line of credit. I do it, I pay the insurance myself. So we're going to be using the method in regards to paying the insurance with our credit card, and then we'll pay the credit card off. So I do have a video explaining how to pay your credit card off without paying any interest. So let's go with the example here. So we'll say that Bob has an income of $2,000 per month. His expenses are $1,750, which gives him a cash flow of $250. So that's the income minus the expenses. What's left over is $250. Now Bob has a credit card of $2,000 and he has a home equity line of credit for $3,000. So he's going to be using the bank's money basically. Remember, we said that the insurance for the year is $750 for a house. Now we're going to briefly go through how to use the credit card to pay off the insurance. So step one, the insurance is $750. We're going to put that on to our credit card. So the credit card is $2,000. So if we put $750 on there, it will equal $1,250 that we have left over on the credit card. Once Bob gets his income, he's going to take $750, pay off the credit card back to $2,000. The next step, he will use the remainder of his income, which is $1,250. Remember, his income is $2,000 and he used $750 of it. The remainder of his income, he's first going to pay his rent. After he pays his rent, whatever is left over for expenses, he's going to pay that. So if his expenses is $1,750 and he uses $1,250 on the expenses, then he's left over with $500 of expenses. After that, what he's going to do to pay off the expenses, he's going to use the credit card, which he paid in full, to avoid any interest, and he's going to pay the $500 onto the credit card, which will leave the credit card at $1,500. Now, he's going to have to do this 3 times for 3 months. Now, why would he have to do this for 3 months? Because the insurance is $750 for the year, and he put it all onto his credit card. If you use this same method, his cash flow is $250. If we do 250 times 3, that's $750. So he would use this method for 3 months, and that would pay off the insurance for the year. Now remember, as this is going, you're still stuffing the $800 rent payments into your home equity line of credit, which is reducing the interest, which is increasing your cash flow every single month. So this right here is separate from this. So you're going to be doing velocity banking on the credit card to pay the insurance. As you're doing that, you're stuffing all your payments into the home equity line of credit to reduce the interest. Now, if this equation does not make sense, please revert back to the video in which I show you how to pay your credit card off without paying any interest. I explained it thoroughly, and I do it about 3, 4, 5 times so you get the understanding. But this is particularly what we're doing for the first 6 months once we get that property. All right, so now we are on month 6. So it's June. And according to the BRRRR strategy, with my bank, I'm able to refinance the property to to pull out another HELOC. And with the method, we're going to get $55,000 again. And then we're just going to purchase another property of $50,000 and then rehab it for $5,000. So now we have 2 properties. Now, the second property, you're going to be doing the exact same thing in regards to the home equity line of credit. So remember that, let's say it's renting out for $800 and we're going to still use that 5% interest rate. And when we use that 5% interest rate, the first month is going to be $229 of interest. You specifically just get your rent payment of $800. You throw that into the home equity line of credit, the second one. So your first house, when you get the 8, you're still throwing it on that first home equity line of credit. When you get your other $800, you're throwing that into the second one. And remember, with the calculation, assuming that the interest will stay at $229, which it will not, because the more money you throw into the home equity line of credit, the less the interest rate will be. So we're going to assume that you can pay that off in about 6 years, which is really, really quick. So you got 2 home equity lines of credit going at the same time. You're specifically just putting one rent payment on the first one, the other rent payment on the second one, and it's going to pretty much just pay that thing down. Also, another thing to remember, that $800, when you're putting it on the home equity line of credit, it is different from a mortgage. That $800 is not lost. So if some type of maintenance or expense happens, you pull it right out of the home equity line of credit. So again, you don't have to have some type of savings fund. You're literally putting all the money into the home equity line of credit. And if something arises, just take some of it out and then pay that expense, that repair, and just keep stuffing that in there. So it's pretty much that simple. Now, the second part, remember, we have to get insurance again on the second property. And it's going to be about $750 in my area per the year. So we're just going to go over the equation again. So we have Bob, income is $2,000, expenses is $1,750 for the month. His cash flow out of his own pocket is $250. So that's the $2,000 minus the $1,750. Now remember, he has his credit card of $2,000 and his line of credit of $3,000. So remember, on the first scenario, it only took him 3 months to pay off the insurance. So his credit card is back up to full and his line of credit is still $3,000 because we have not used that. So for the insurance, remember, we're going to pay the $750 of the insurance. We're going to put that onto the $2,000 credit card. This will make it $1,250 that's left because it's minus the $750 for insurance. Now we're going to take our income, $750 of our income, we're going to pay the car off in full, which avoids the interest for that month. When we paid in full, it goes back to the $2,000 on the credit card. He's going to use the remainder of his income, $1,250. He's going to first, parentheses, pay his rent. After he pays his rent, whatever's left over, he's going to put that on the expenses. If his expenses is $1,750 and he used $1,250 of his income, expenses are $500. Now, to pay the expenses, he's going to use the $2,000 credit card that he paid in full to pay the remainder of the expenses, which will leave his credit card at $1,500. Again, he's going to have to do that for 3 months to fully pay the insurance, but he has avoided any interest on his credit card. And remember, that home equity line of credit, that rent payment, is still getting stuffed into that HELOC because we're trying to pay that off really quickly. So you haven't even touched that. You're using your own income to pay for the insurance. So the last thing that we need to tackle, because this is month 6 through 12, when it becomes December, what happens, remember, the HELOC, it's not going to be like a typical mortgage. So it's not tying in the insurance and it's not tying in the property taxes. So at the end of the year, we have to pay the property tax. Now I'm gonna let you know, in my area, the houses, they're usually about $1,000 for the year for property taxes in the Midwest in Kansas. So I'm gonna use that as the benchmark. So the first house we buy in the beginning of January. So we're gonna have to pay that full $1,000 of property tax. The second house we buy in the middle, we buy in June. So we're gonna have to pay half of those property taxes. So I have the property tax at $1,500 that we have to pay. Now we're gonna be using the velocity banking strategy again to pay off the property tax, but we're gonna be using a different debt weapon from the bank. We're actually gonna be using the line of credit of $3,000 that Bob has. So since we're gonna be using the bank's money to pay the property tax, we are going to use $1,500 for the line of credit, pay the property tax of $1,500. Now, when you get your income in, the income, you're gonna pay $1,500 of $2,000 that you have, put that back onto the line of credit to pay that off in full. Once you do that, you have $500 left out of your $2,000. You're gonna put that onto your expenses. Expenses are $1,750. When we do the math, you're gonna have $1,250 left on expenses. Now, how are we gonna pay the expenses? Easy. We have our line of credit, which we paid in full, and then we're gonna pay those expenses. This leaves our line of credit at $1,750 because we did the $3,000 minus $1,250. Now, if the cash flow is $250 on his personal income, it's going to take us 6 months to pay off the property taxes using the bank's money. And again, with those 6 months, you're still shoving money into both houses on the HELOCs. You have not touched them. And since you're shoving in that $800 every single month, the interest is reduced, your cash flow keeps going up. So this is awesome. This is literally how my finances are working here. So I know it's a lot to take in, but this would be how to incorporate velocity banking into the BRRRR strategy. So for my HELOCs, again, I am stuffing in my rent payments on the HELOCs, reducing the interest, increasing my cash flow, and then for the insurance and the property taxes, I am paying those off with my own income and using the velocity banking method, using the bank's money and the line of credit to pay that off. So another thing that we want to tackle as well, so if you don't have any insurance to pay because you paid it off, maybe your cash flow is greater than $250, so you're able to pay the insurance off quickly, or you're able to pay the property tax off quickly with your own income and cash flow, then you're going to be using your home equity line of credit as your bank account. And what I specifically mean by that, let's say on HELOC 1, since it's a variable interest rate, that it went to 7%. In HELOC 2, it's at, let's say, 4%. So on HELOC 1, since it's 7%, you want to try to reduce the interest. So what you're specifically going to do is use the $2,000 of income. You're going to shove that into your home equity line of credit. Yes, all $2,000 plus your $800 rent check, shove that all into your home equity line of credit. Now, when the expenses come due, let's say a light bill comes due and it's $200. You take $200 out of your line of credit because your line of credit has your $2,000 of income, right? You're going to take that out of your line of credit, just $200, pay your light bill. Something else comes up. You take it out of your line of credit, pay the water bill. And you're going to keep doing that. Now the thing is, since your cash flow is $250, there's going to be $250 left over on the home equity line of credit plus your $800 on there. So you're cash flowing a lot. So again, if you have no insurance or if you have no property tax to pay, use one of the HELOCs, whichever one has the highest interest rate. You're going to use that as your bank account, shoving that money all in there and taking it out when you need to. So you're not saving up any type of money in a savings account for a rainy day. Your rainy day is in your home equity line of credit. Since the home equity lines of credit are revolving, you're just transferring money in and transferring money out. So I know this is a lot, but once you get the concept, it is this easy. You're using the BRRRR strategy, your velocity banking, with your HELOC, with your credit card or your line of credit, depending on the situation. And I mean, you're doing amazing things. Last thing I want to touch on, at the bottom, the end of every year, if you're getting 1 or 2 properties and you're getting an $800 check, your gross income is getting higher. And when your gross income gets higher, what you want to do, you want to go to the bank and say, hey, you know, I'm making more money now. Increase my line of credit, increase my credit card, because we want to have as much capital as possible. So let's say at the end of the year, Bob's like, hey, you know what? I'm making $1,600 more a month because house 1's giving me 8, house 2's giving me 8 of gross income. Can my credit card be $4,000 now? Can I get a limit of $4,000? Can my line of credit be a limit of $6,000? So now you have more capital. So every year that you're getting a house, 1 house or 2 houses, or maybe even 3, then you're going to be asking for your lines of credit to increase. Now, again, I hope you had your pen and pad out. It's a lot. You can always rewind the video. Please hit me up with any type of questions. I want you guys to learn this, because this is ultimately what I'm specifically doing with my finances when I buy these houses, these properties, and fixing them up. Again, I appreciate the love that you guys give me. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe if this has helped you. And if you've not hit that like button yet, go ahead and do so. Help a brother out. I want to reach a higher audience base, get this knowledge out to the masses. Without further ado, hopefully you guys have a good weekend. You peace out.